Okay, so we finished the kitty cat filet blanket in yellow. And before I even finished that, I had started to work on another pattern. And this is the graph. So I started on it, and I don't have a whole lot of DK yarns to choose from, you know, the 3-weight yarn. So, and I have this really pretty anti-pilling DK colors from, what do you call it? Premier Yarns. And in the colorway. That's such a strange term. Why do they say that? It's a color, but they call it colorway. In the colorway of Hummingbird. It's gorgeous. It's got a little bit of white and some purple and some blue, and I thought it would be a great choice. Not so much. So I've been working on this in the evenings, and it's not really a variegated, it's self-striping, but I'm not real thrilled with, hi Toby. I'm not real thrilled with how the color is making the pattern look. And I'm about halfway, and I decided we're gonna start over because I'm not real thrilled with, especially how this bottom part is showing up. And I'm not real sure if it's the design or if it's because of the stripes or a combination of both. Could very well be a combination of both. So what I'm gonna end up doing, Kitty, please don't eat my yarn. What I'm gonna end up doing is frogging this out, rewrapping it, because it turns out I wasn't gonna have enough to finish it anyways. And then, this little guy's eating my yarn. And then it was gonna end up being too short. I want it to be like a normal blanket, you know, it's longer than it is wide. So I went back to the drawing board on the design and changed it up a little bit to make it a little longer. Had less filet work in the little border pattern and added a few rows in just because I wanted it to be longer. So the only thing I have left to work with now is white. That's a DK. And it is Uptown Baby Sport. And I believe that I also got this from Premier, I think. I think it was one of those, I got it like a really good deal, and it took forever to get here. So I couldn't use it for its intended purpose. So I have like 4 skeins of these, and there's 361 yards in a skein. And I would think that that should be enough, I hope. Don't know till I go to work it up. Why is it such a long process? He thinks I'm a chew toy. Why is it such a long, ouch, such a long process trying to figure out a pattern from scratch? He only does this when I want to crochet. I wonder why that is. So I also printed up the page so that I don't have to read the chart. I printed it up in color blocks, but I left that in the other room, so I have to get up and go get it. And instead of doing this, I really should be working on my temperature blanket, but I don't feel like it. So Toby and I are gonna go and get my other pages so that it is easier. And hopefully he's gonna let me get some work done. I mean, I've got the remote handy so I can turn the TV on and have some background noise. I have my drink, I have my hook, my scissors. I just don't have the color block pages. So we're gonna go get those. All right, so I'm back, and this is what the color block pages look like. So a gray square is solid, and a white square is an open mesh. And it represents, like this first row says 81, but each mesh is 2 stitches. So a solid mesh is 2 double crochets, and an open mesh is a chain 1 and a double crochet. So if this says 81, I need 162 double crochets. Whoops. Dropped my hook. I need 162 double crochets plus 1 for my first row. So you could, it depends on my mood. I could start off with foundation double crochet, or I could chain 162 plus 3. And that should give me the proper number of chains to do the double crochets, because that turning chain will count as a double crochet. So, and I brought out my pen so that I can mark off my rows as I finish, and also because it can get quite confusing when you've got long rows like this with a whole bunch of changes in it, and after a while you're like, where was I? So I just like put a little mark in between the boxes to show where I'm at. I'm kind of bummed though that I was halfway, and well, you know, it's our prerogative to change our mind, and that's what I have done. I've changed my mind. So I'm gonna get started on this with the white Uptown Baby Sport. And then I'll get to frog all that stuff out. I am not fast at foundation double crochets at all. But it's certainly easier to count than doing all the chains and then having to battle the chain, especially one that long, and do a return row of double crochets. Okay, so this is where I'm at. I'm going to turn you off. I'm going to turn the camera off and pop the TV on and get this first row done. Okay, I've got the first 2 rows. Woohoo! Now the next row, we get to start some of the filet stitching. And I double, tripled, and quadruple counted to make sure that I had the right number of stitches, because when you start wanting your pattern to line up, if you don't have the right number of stitches, it could definitely be a little bit of a problem. So I'm going to mark off the first 2 rows as complete, and really the next 4 rows are pretty basic. Like I'm going to have 2 solid mesh stitches and 77 open mesh stitches and 2 solid mesh stitches. That's a tongue twister. Until I get to the end of this next row, the 3rd row, and then the 3 rows after that are going to be identical to each other. And really, like, row 9 is where we really get to see some patterns starting to kick off. So let's get back at it. So one thing that I do when I do these to keep my edges nice and straight is my chain stitch is a chain 2 instead of a chain 3. And your turning chain does not count as a stitch. So when you're moving from a solid mesh to an open mesh or an open mesh to a solid mesh, that first one is going to look like you have 3 stitches, but the open mesh is a chain stitch and a double crochet, because the chain just can't like be out there in limbo land. It has to have something that grounds it. And then after your chain and your double crochet, then you do your 2 double crochets for your solid mesh stitch. It is definitely a tongue twister. So I'll show you what I mean here. So this is 2, those 4 double crochets here. That is 2 solid mesh stitches, and my turning chain is right here. So the next stitch is an open mesh, so it's chain 1, skip, and then a double crochet, and then 2, right? No, then it's 70 more open mesh stitches. So I'd have to show you when I get to the end of the row what I meant, because why not? I'm just getting a little confused. All right, so let's get back at it. I'm almost at the end of the row, and then I'll be able to show you what I was talking about, where it looks like you have too many stitches, but you really don't. It can get confusing if you don't understand really what's going on with it. And I know I had, in the beginning, I had a tough time grasping why my stuff wasn't working out when, oh, I only have 25 open meshes, and I'd get to the end of the row and I can't finish it because I don't have that stitch to anchor down that open mesh. So yeah, I ran into that problem a few times till, I don't know, I was Googling and came across somebody's blog, I don't remember whose, and they were explaining like how to get started, to start your filet project. And it actually broke it down step by step, and then I understood why my stitch count wasn't coming out. Sometimes it's not this is how you do it, but the way my brain works is I need to know the why you do it that way. So it might take me a few times of doing something, and then I'll be like, oh, the light comes on. I get it. I understand now. Okay, so I'm at my last mesh. And then I need 2 solid mesh, and that consists of 2 double crochets for each mesh. So there should be 4. So 1, 2, 3. Now remember, I used a chain 2 for my turning chain, so I put that last stitch of the row at the very top of that turning chain, and 4. So you see how I have 5 stitches there, and that's 2 solid meshes, but there's 5 stitches. That's because this first double here, right here, belongs to this open mesh stitch. So once you get that like burned into your brain, then you start to understand the concept of the whole thing. And of course, every designer is different, but that concept will stay the same, because the chain cannot just be floating around out there. It has to start with a double crochet. It has to end with a double crochet because the chain just can't be dangling. So once you get that part figured out, you've got it going. Okay, so that's row 3. I'm not going to show you every single row as we do this, but that is the beginning of how the pattern is going to start. So it's time to give myself a little break, rest my fingers, and check and see what that little kitty is doing, because he hasn't been bothering me for the last 30 minutes or so. So I got to make sure he's not up to no good. So I'll be back. So I've had a chance to work on this for a few days. I started it on Thursday, and Friday I had to take my car to the garage and get an oil change and a tire repair. So I was able to sit there and do a couple of rows, but that was it for Friday. Saturday, I spent most of my day working on temperature blanket, and Sunday, I was able to get a nice little chunk done. But this is the first section down here of the pattern. And I am just moving into up here, moving into the section where the little lambs are at. So I will be back again for another update. But I'm definitely liking how this is coming out better than I did with the self-striping, and getting rid of some of the busyness in this section down here. So I really like how that is showing up. So this is how I have my cart set up. I have my pattern part up here where I can see it, and that needs to be frogged behind it to help hold it up so I can see what is coming next. And my yarn that I'm pulling from is on the middle shelf where my graph and my other pages for the pattern are, and my yarn for this project. And then, of course, down there is the temperature blanket. So I am going to continue to work. Here it is in my lap. Just getting started for the day. It is Monday, the 12th. And I'm just getting to be able to work on the blanket because, you know, real life comes first and we got to pay the bills. So here we go. So it's Tuesday, and this is how far I am. As you can see, the little sheep are starting to take shape. I am on row 53 will be the row that I'm starting on next. And that puts me a little bit more than halfway. So I think I'm happy with the width, but I'm not so sure if I'm gonna be happy with the length of it. It's hard to tell. It'll probably be okay, because if I'm just a little bit more than halfway, I still got a long way to go. So yeah, I think it'll be good. But this is how it's looking, and I think I told you I'm using Uptown Baby Sport, and it's white. But, you know, this indoor lighting makes the color look not white, at least through my lens here. But yeah, it's looking really good. I can't wait to get the rest of the sheep done and show you where we're at. All right, it is Wednesday, and the little lambs are complete. I only have like 30 rows left to do, and this will be finished. And I was thinking if I used like a 4-weight yarn and a bigger hook, this could be like a regular throw, but I think I would have to like repeat part of the pattern to do that, to make it long enough. It would definitely end up wide enough. Or I could, if I wanted to make it wider, still use the DK weight and double up the pattern from the lambs up, which is a repeat of this down here. So have like 3 strips of this and 2 strips of this to make a full-size blanket, but you could use the DK and each mesh space be equal to 3 stitches. So instead of doing a chain 1 and a double crochet for an open mesh, it would be a chain 2 and a double crochet, and a solid mesh would be 3 double crochets. So there's a lot of things that could be done with this, and I am just like really liking how this is turning out. Really, really liking how it's turning out. So the next update will either be tomorrow or when I get finished. But it's looking so good. So good. OMG, you guys, forget that last update that I just did. I just noticed I made a huge mistake. Can you spot it? I'll tell you, it's on the right. Look at this. I missed his back. See? It's like, oh my gosh, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 rows that I have to frog. Oh my gosh. Well, it is what it is. It happens to the best of us. Oh, I'm so bummed. Okay, it is Thursday, and last night I had to pull out 16 rows, but I figured out where I went wrong. While I was on row 49, which would be this part here, the back, somewhere on that row, I switched to the pattern that was on row 50. And that's how I got off track. So we pulled everything out back down to row 49, and I think I was on like row 60 or 63, something like that. I don't remember now. And I have made it back to row 57 is complete. So I'm almost back to where I started when I had to pull everything out. So I just finished my work for the day. I'm gonna go wash a few dishes, and then I'm gonna be able to sit down and get back to work on this. And we will update you again. News alert, we are interrupting our regularly scheduled broadcast to bring you this breaking news. My yarn order has arrived. Now, originally, I was supposed to be finished with my current project that we are working on in this video, but because of frogging, that didn't happen. So, I now have my yarn for my next 2 projects. So, this is what I got. Premier has their a lot of their DK weight yarn on sale. And that's what I needed in order to work on these Filet baby blankets. And this top that I want to make, I needed a DK weight cotton that I would have enough of the colors to be able to do the pattern. And what I had, I didn't have enough of the right colors that went together. So I ordered for my little Filet projects some Premier Basics DK, and these are 306 yards, number 3 light, and they were $2.29 a skein. That's, I think, is a pretty good price. So I got 4 of this color. It's called C. It's kind of, it's a blue. Some kind of blue. And then I got this color, which is also 306 yards a skein, and the color is rose. That is very pretty. And does anybody know why when you buy the same line of the same brand, some of them feel nice and silky while others don't? Because this feels nice and silky. Very nice. So I got 4 of these. And my third color for my filet projects, same thing, 306 yards a skein, $2.29 a skein. I got this sage green. These I ended up getting 5 of because if you order $75 or more, you get free shipping. And I was $2.28 away from getting the free shipping. And so if I spent $2.29, that put me at $75.01 to save 12 bucks maybe. You know, shipping isn't cheap. So it was worth the extra $2.29 to save on the shipping. So those are my DKs for my filet projects. Then my other project that I want to do is like it's a granny square project, but it's a wearable. And I don't want to say a whole lot just in case it doesn't work out because, you know, I've got big ideas in my head, but can I make it work out? But I needed the DK, a cotton. But instead of cotton, I ordered a bamboo cotton mix. And this feels so nice. These, I don't remember exactly. I think these were on sale for $2.99. You get 273 yards. And it's a light number 3. And this color is, la-di-da-di-da. This one is called Bloom. Reminds me of like an 80s mauve color. And so I got 2 of those. And then this color is Moss. Again, it's the Bamboo Fair. It's 60% rayon from bamboo and 40% cotton. That's not exactly how they had it listed on their website. It said 60% bamboo and 40% cotton. But it feels nice. It is machine wash, warm, dry, flat. So I can't throw it in the dryer, but I can throw it in the washing machine. And it's a nice thin yarn. It should have some good drape. So I got 2 moss. Now I needed 5 colors. And Premier now has this thing where you can like pick your colors and then tell it to compare, and you can go in and see the different colors side by side, just hoping that your screen displays them close to the right color, because sometimes, you know, it just doesn't work like that. And then my next color is Rose, which, look at the difference in the 2 colors of rose between the 2 types of yarn. So again, this kind of reminds me of that 80s mauve color. Here's the rose with the bloom. So 2 of these. And 2 Azure, A-Z-U-R-E. It's a pretty shade of blue. Kind of reminds me of that 80s dusty blue. Gotta love the 80s. So two two azure. And then you needed like a primary color that would be for like your trim and all that. So I got linen. I like linen, the color. This is actually prettier than the linen that you get with the regular Premier worsted. It's got a nice sheen to it. It's a little shiny, and it feels nice. But being as thin as it is, this ought to have some real good drape. We'll find out. Okay, back to your regularly scheduled program. Oh, it's still Thursday. I think it's Thursday. It's like 10:30 in the evening. I just completed row number 80. All the corrections are made. I have 15 rows left. If I wouldn't have had to do all the frogging, I would be finished, but it is looking fantastic. Just fantastic. So hopefully I will be finished with this tomorrow and we can move on to our next project. But look how cute those little sheep are now that I got them right. All right, it's Friday. I have 4 rows left, but it's time for a well-deserved ice cream break. Then I will get back to work. I did it. I finished the last 4 rows, and let me tell you, the last row was the longest row of my life. I am so ready for a nap. But this blanket has turned out just wonderful. I really like it. So despite the 16 rows I had to fill out, I would have been done yesterday. But you know, it happens to the best of us. I just got off track, was on row 49, and somehow my eyes dropped down to row 50 and did the second half of the row 49 as row 50. So I was like completely a row off. And yeah, so this is how we end up looking. We have the top part, the little sheep, there's 2. And then the bottom is the same as the top. Turned out much better using a solid than this. You can see the design better. Plus I changed up the design because it was just, the diamonds were just a little too busy. And so that has to all be frogged out. And I'll find a different project for that. I love all the colors on those self-striping yarns and the variegated yarns, but I find it very difficult to find projects to use them on. As pretty as it is, it's like the type of things that I like to do, it just doesn't look right with them. So I don't know. I mean, what kind of projects do you use that self-striping yarn on? Because I don't know, the things that I like, it just doesn't seem to go well with. So I just have a few ends to work in, and then I am finished with that. And the pattern will be available in my Etsy pattern shop, which the name of the shop happens to be the same name as my channel, Knotting Hook Crochet. So there's that. I did not do it tutorial style because that would have taken forever to get through the whole blanket. And it would have slowed me down trying to explain, okay, do 3 open mesh here, do 7 solid mesh, do 1 open, 3 solid. You know what I'm saying. It just would have been a real hassle. The only thing that I would say that I really like about doing this, when I get to the end of a row and I do my chain to turn, I do a chain 2 instead of a chain 3. And look at how nice and straight my edges are. They are not wonky. So if I don't want to put a border on this, I don't have to. I don't have to clean up my edges because they're already nice and straight. So chaining 2, and then the very last stitch of the row goes into the top of that chain 2, keeps such a nice smooth edge. It just, you don't need to add a border. And I won't be adding a border, but if anybody wanted to add a border, they could surely do so. So I got to work in my ends, get some pictures, and the listing will be up for this pattern available in my Etsy shop. So I have 2 other projects in the works that I haven't started yet, but I will be working on. One of them happens to be another filet blanket, and the other is top secret. I'm not telling what it is until it is finished because, you know, the gears are still turning and I got to make sure I do it just the way I want it. But I am so excited that my yarn came in yesterday because now not only do I have the right size yarn to use, but I actually have some color choices instead of just black or white. So that makes all the difference in the world when you're making something. If you enjoy the color, it makes the project a whole lot more enjoyable. Okay, so on that note, if you hop right over to this video here, I will meet you there.